Hi everyone, it's Silene Burns here from the Spiritual Marketing Club and Stress Coach Training. So I'm going to ask you this question. Do you know what the heart, soul and ego is of your business? Now, often it's very easy to identify the heart of your business, okay? Where the passion runs for your business, where you absolutely, parts of your business that you absolutely love doing. And it's often the thing that really motivated you to move if you've moved from a job that pays you every week where you know what you're getting paid into becoming self-employed as a spiritual entrepreneur. Now, the soul of your business, I believe that the soul of your business is very much like the intentions, the motivations behind your business. And again, that ties in with your heart, but it's, it's service to others. A spiritual business first and foremost is always about service to others first, and they're coming from a pure intent. So, it's never just about the money, and money does not come first. It's always about service to others first, okay? But the reality is that we also have an ego. And in the spiritual world, we will look at the ego as something that we want to kind of break down or let go of. But functioning in a still, which is mostly I suppose reasonably a 3D world, or 3D way of looking at things in business. To function in business, we can look at it this way, that the ego can be either healthy or unhealthy. Okay, you can have a really shadow element of the ego, or there can be a healthy aspect to the ego. Okay, ego, the term ego is used in so many different ways in healing, in psychology, psychotherapy, and different schools of thought. So what I want is just to think about it in this term is that you have the shadow ego and you have a good ego, right, for what I'm talking about. And the reality is that you need your ego to be nice and healthy and pure to run a good, solid business, right, in a structure. But when a wounding comes in and the shadow comes in, it can sabotage your business. So I want to give you some examples of where the shadow element of the ego can really cause problems in the business, and a few examples where I see it really seems to come out. So one of the things that I noticed when I've run groups, particularly to do with holistic or spiritual businesses, is that's where often, and it's natural, but the ego comes out, right? And the ego comes out sometimes in the shadow element, and it comes out in different strands. But the reality is it's because every person is maybe sharing what they do, and they are, writing about what they do or promoting what they do. And if someone is insecure about their offerings, right, or insecure, they feel they're not enough underneath, right, or their business model, or they're not building their business up with a strong foundation. So maybe someone's said this is what you should be doing, or they didn't really know what to do, right? What happens is then the shadow element comes out, and it's comparisonitis, and it's also imposter syndrome starts coming out. And often this comes out just because someone's maybe not recognising at their core that no matter what stage of the journey they're on and what skills they have, they're perfect for their audience, and they are more than enough for who they're best suited to serve. But what I often see is then particularly those that are not as much experienced, right? They come in and they start feeling uncomfortable because they're maybe in a group where people are a lot more experienced, or maybe more spiritually awakened, or evolved in certain areas, and then they feel they have to try and prove themselves, or try and be something that they're not, or appear that they're more skilled or experienced and they're not. And that can actually, then they start getting this complete self-sabotage, and can actually start disrupting their business, because what they start doing is start adding all these things to the business and trying to make the business out that it's doing this and it's doing that, where Their energy's all over the place. They've lost their intention because of fear. It's like the child who wants another sweetie, doesn't want the sweet that they've got. That looks better than mine, so I want that one. I want to try that one. I want to be that person, or that person's got a beautiful dress. I want that dress. I want to have her hair. Right, all this kind of thing. Right. If we get back to it, it's just the inner child playing out, the wounded child. But the ego, when we're running a spiritual business, of course we're all human, and we all have ego. My ego's there as well, but there's obviously different levels to it. And as a spiritual business, we want to evolve, and we want to run our business and from the purest intention, from the purest passion, and from a strong structure. If you are not being honest with yourself, right, about certain things, or you're not honouring yourself, right, so honest or honouring yourself, you can fall into all sorts of sabotaging behaviours in your business, and you're letting your ego make the decisions, right, the shadow ego, right. Every single person that I meet has a unique gift, but often they are so confused by all the way that they're told maybe how to market something, or how their training school thinks that they should be, or whatever, is that they often do not recognise their innate gifts. When you do not recognise your innate gifts, or you're not really in your zone of genius, or you're not really working with your soul clients, you can often be sabotaging your business because you're trying to be someone instead of being yourself, right? Someone that's got a couple of years experience in healing, the reality is you've got a couple of years experience. Your gifts are your gifts, and your level of experience is your level of experience. You are not ever going to match the same clients that someone that 20 or 30 years experience who has certain their unique gifts. That's reality, right? But it doesn't mean just because that you are working at a certain level doesn't mean you're any less of a person. Of course, when people have certain levels of skills and experience, or certain niche areas they're working in, they may be able to charge differently, and they're charging for their depth of knowledge or experience. It's the same as like coaching. So there's a huge difference, for example, in coaching schools. There's some colleges that do coaching, and they're very, very basic foundational courses. And then there's very exclusive high coaching courses that can be 2 years long, that require many, many case studies, a lot of inspection from other coaches, and a lot of work to really get that coaching really polished. Each of those courses require a different level of investment, and that investment can be time, energy, and money, right? It's just like I run a training thing, and one of my courses takes people approximately 120 hours. Now, some of that is putting into practice in their own life certain strategies, right? But the reality is, I want to attract that type of therapist, the therapist that wants to invest, the person that's not just about the certificate but wants what's best for the client, or they want to do it. It's what I believe is, is a better way to do it. Now, that might not be what you do, but or what you believe. Every single person is individual, and what their ethics, their values, what's important to them, and how much they invest, how much work they do, how much experience, and you combine that then with the person's individual gifts. But again, just because someone is doing something different from you, working with clients at maybe at a different level, does not in any way decline your value or worth as a person. But people, for some reason, tend to kind of take this very personal, and it's their inner child wounding. But they're also not being in the present moment. They're not fully in the zone, because see, when you're in the zone, you don't think about all these things. It does not. You don't compare. I was very lucky because my my circumstances meant that I couldn't really compare for many years, because I had to do a lot of courses kind of privately because I wasn't fit to do it the normal way. I had to do things, even I did do it the normal way, I had no time or energy to socialise or to focus on what anyone else was doing. And also, from the beginning of my business, I ended up being more an educator and a teacher rather than going out and doing a lot of things physical, and then I started doing physical things, and I'll explain what I mean. So when I first started my business, I was still struggling seriously with mobility. I had serious physical exhaustion. The most simple things in my business I could end up in my bed for 2 or 3 days. So I had a structure in my business at the beginning where I had a lot of what called down period, time that I could sit and not do physical work, but I could do a lot of online work. So my business was partly online and partly physical, right? And I realised before I started my business that I had spent 10 years learning lots of things, but I had also learned it was all about a lot of knowledge. And before I started my business, I actually wrote articles for a local paper. I'd been asked to write, like health, holistic. It was a small local paper. My grammar was awful. My spelling, well, let's say, wasn't 100%. But the editor kindly, sorted everything. I just needed to give the information. It was a great opportunity. And I had even before I had got sick, I had been a natural teacher. I was a dressmaking teacher, and I did vocal coaching for people. So what happened was that I recognised my skill was being a teacher, right? And I just started with basics, very basic things that I taught. And as I started doing more therapies, I started getting into more. I done training to be an instructor and an educator, through community education and things like that, and I did all that, and I built my skills up. But the reality was, I had that many, it's hard to explain, but it was almost like all these opportunities. There were so many things that I wanted to do that I couldn't do because physically I wasn't well enough, that it made it easier. So it was in many ways, even though I would say I am not a naturally boundaried person, I found it hard to set boundaries. In that area, my boundaries were set because there were things that I just wasn't physically able to do. So it was like almost what I could do was so narrowed down that it helped me in my business, because it helped me just focus, and I just focused on what I was doing and what I loved to do. What I find with people who are amongst a lot of people in a lot of groups is sometimes they start really questioning themselves, and then other people start saying all sorts of things and having all sorts of opinions. And that's one of the things that I saw in a lot of groups. Even when I was coaching, I'd be maybe coaching these clients, but then when they would get into the group, all these people would start confusing them. They didn't really know a lot of aspects, but would be throwing things in, and it would cause confusion. And then they would believe for some reason that they weren't enough exactly where they are. And of course, you can only feel you're not enough if there's wounding there that needs to be addressed, right? And we know that this is something that, we all have wounds that we need to work on, and that's a thing that's an ongoing thing. But when you recognise in your business that the ego can be sabotaging you, the ego can be stopping you from recognising your value, recognising your worth, or recognising where you are just constantly trying to be more when you don't need to be, it makes things easier. Okay, so recognise your heart is the passion, your soul is your intention, and your motives, all your ethics and values. And the ego there has to be a healthy ego, because that's the foundation, the solid destruction of your business, even the processes of your business, which can involve different aspects, not just what we're talking about in that ego aspect. But if you don't start with a solid foundation of running your business around your most powerful and great gifts and skills, then you don't have a strong foundation. Okay, so have a wonderful day. Bye for now.